This is gonna be upsetting. Like, so before even watching this video, like, I would just make sure you're in the headspace for it, because yeah, it's gonna be triggering. So just make sure you're taking care of you first. For the next 4 years, like, that should be the theme. Self-care, a lot of self-care, self-love, and community love, community support. It's all about coming together right now. We all need to be lifting each other up. We all need to be taking care of ourselves and of each other. Please remember that it's really important to be practicing self-care. My name is Ryan Cassata. I use he, him pronouns. I have been using he, him pronouns for the last about 17 years. I started coming out as queer when I was 12, so it's been almost 2 decades of seeing all of the changes that the trans community has gone through. In many ways, we have come a very, very long way. In some ways, things are a lot better, and unfortunately, in some ways, things are a lot worse. This presidential action is titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. I read this last night and I couldn't even talk. I felt that anger rise up in me. It feels like an attack on the trans community. It feels like a direct attack.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
It did sound like he was talking about, like, he's gonna make it so there's only 2 genders, and it sounded like it was gonna be all about the non-binary community. After reading this, I've learned that when he's talking about defending women from gender ideology, he is talking about trans men as women. So they're like trying to save trans men because we're like, to them, like the damsels in distress, and we need to be saved by men from this harmful ideology, this woke-mindedness. That's what they're saying. So like, one, yes, this is about trans men, and it's also about trans women, and it's probably even more so about trans women. It just like directly attacks trans women. The trans men aspect of it mostly feels between the lines, but the trans women aspect is like, that's where their like biggest issues lie. Of course, they're also attacking non-binary people, and they're attacking the intersex community as well, and basically just declaring that like all of these people don't exist at all. Trans people have been around forever. We've existed forever. And that includes gender non-conforming people, non-binary people. I'm also talking about intersex people, whether they identify as trans or not. This also does attack the intersex community. That's important to also highlight. This is so gross. So it starts off, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. Across the country, who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and or socially corrosive means to permit men to self-identify as women and gain access to intimate single-sex spaces and activities designed for women, from women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplace showers. This is wrong. Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. So this is immediately attacking trans women. From like the first paragraph, it's all attacking trans women. The erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in government itself. You don't need to trust the government, and really, we should not be trusting the government at all. We are now like in an oligarchy. Trump is selling the United States of America to these billionaires. He's being basically bribed by billionaires. This is really bad. Accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. So now here's our attack on trans men, trans women, and also our non-binary community. This also just leaves out intersex people altogether, like they've never existed. They're not great at science here. Section 2, policy and definition. It is the policy of the United States to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable. The following definition shall govern all executive interpretation of and application of federal law and administration policy. This is where it gets really bad. So A, sex, they have in quotations, shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity. So here we have an erasure of gender identity. We have an erasure of the difference between sex and gender. And we have an erasure of trans people to the federal government. Keep in mind, this is just to the federal government. This doesn't mean like, poof, wow, I'm not trans anymore because Trump's in office. Like, it doesn't mean that. Like, trans people still exist. We have always existed and we always will exist. It doesn't matter what laws there are, we still exist. We're still here and we still need to stay out and proud, of course, in whatever way feels safe. So that's A. B, women or woman and girls or girls shall mean adult and juvenile human females respectively. C, men or man and boys or boys shall mean adult and juvenile human males respectively. So here we are erasing trans men and trans women. D, female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. E, male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. F, gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa. So this is like MTF and FTM. They are saying like, no. We don't agree with that. And requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. This is really bad because institutions of society, they're schools where there's a lot of trans kids that are going to be bullied even more now. They're airports where trans people are getting patted down. I mean, I've gone through TSA and have gotten sexually harassed, patted down to tell if I'm a male or female. This one TSA person put their hands under my underwear, and that caused me a lot of trauma. I also had a TSA person shove their hands on my back and say, ma'am, like that to me. Gender ideology includes the idea that there's a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one's sex. Gender ideology is internally inconsistent in that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category, but nevertheless maintains that it is possible for a person to be born in the wrong sex body. So this is just like a total erasure of all trans identities across the board. This is all erasing gender. Sex is the only thing that exists. It's only male and female. This is attack on all trans people across all trans identities. This one is really scary to me. D, the Secretaries of State and Homeland Security and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall implement changes to require that government issued identification documents, including passports, visas, global entry cards, accurately reflect the holder's sex as defined under Section 2 of this order. The Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall ensure that personal records accurately report federal employees' sex as defined by Section 2 of this order. So, like, I don't know what they think, but there's, like, probably millions of trans people living in the United States. There's a lot of us, and I think a lot of us, like me, I got my passport changed when I was 18. I had to get surgery and 2 letters, I think both from my surgeon. It was like some weird hoops I had to jump through at the time. So like, are they gonna go back and spend all this money just to change the gender markers of all of these things? Or are they gonna like stop us in TSA or like not let us come back into the country? Like, what is going to happen? I don't really know. Hopefully they don't do anything. Hopefully this is just like an intimidation. This also means like if you haven't updated your legal documents to reflect your gender identity, you won't be able to for the next 4 years probably. Maybe in states that are more liberal like California, you'll be able to change your driver's license. Other than that, I don't know. So that's the part that really scares me the most. There's a lot in here of like, we're removing all of these documents from government websites, like the White House Toolkit on Trans Equality, the Department of Education's guidance documents, including U.S. Department of Education Toolkit, creating inclusive and non-discriminatory school environments for LGBTQ students. Like, how do you remove this stuff? You're just like the biggest bullies in the history of the United States, really. This is really bad. Stay visible if you can, if you feel safe enough to, even if you're just staying visible to a few friends you feel comfortable with, or online and not in your day-to-day IRL life, like that's okay. Do whatever you can, but be as visible as you can be, really. And it's time to check in with community. It's time to uplift the trans community. It's time to just be holding each other up, because these next 4 years are going to be really, really difficult. Things already feel so much worse because just from day one, they're like, yeah, we're going to attack trans people. Like that's our priorities. Like while California is burning and there's other natural disasters that still need to be cleaned up, and like people's lives are in danger, and they're so worried about trans people. It's obsessive, it's creepy. They are obsessed with trans people. And honestly, they probably all watch trans porn. Let's be real here. That's why they hate us so much, because they actually love us so much and they are ashamed about it. And it's also something that they could just all like get behind. Like it's easy for them to be like, let's just pick 1% of the population and hate on them so much, because then we could feel so powerful. It's so gross. This is the federal government. This does not mean that you need to go back in the closet. This does not mean that you can't be yourself. Get through the next 4 years and be yourself in all the places that you feel safe enough to do so. You know, make friends with other trans people online. Build up your community. Build up your community as big as you possibly can right now, even if that is digitally, virtually, because we do need communities to really come together and be standing with one another right now. That is something that will really help us get through this. Like I said, practice self-care. Self-care is so important. I'm thinking about taking a self-defense class so that I could feel more secure. Things like that are important to do. Like, think about the things that are going to help you get through this next 4 years. And if you have access to them, do them. Even if you look up stuff on YouTube and take a self-defense class that way, like, there's options, there's ways to do things that are budget friendly, that can make you feel a little bit more safe and secure in your body. Stay safe, be very aware of your surroundings. Don't trust anyone that, I mean, honestly, like anyone that's like not an apparent cis ally, like don't trust them. Like, fuck that. I'm not trusting them at all. When you can, use a gender neutral bathroom. When I used to travel by myself, going across the country, sometimes I would go into like 5 different fast food places until I found a gender neutral bathroom. And I would never like go to a gas station bathroom or like anywhere that was like secluded and felt scary. Like all of that stuff is just a no right now. Go where it feels safe. I'm someone that doesn't really pass regularly, so I have to be a lot more aware about the spaces that I'm in and who's in there with me and who might be dangerous for me to be around. So right now I'm gonna be hyper vigilant, even more so about that. I've always been like paranoid about that my whole life, but I will be more now. To all the trans people that are currently struggling, like, you're not alone. I'm struggling with you, and I will be doing everything I can to continue to raise visibility and to help our community. I love the trans community so much. You all are so valid. You're so beautiful, and you make the world a better place. You make the world a more exciting place, really just a more beautiful, wonderful place, because trans people are in it. So celebrate yourselves, continue celebrating yourselves. Do not let them take away your pride. Continue to have pride. You deserve it. All right, I love all of you. Stay true, stay you, and stay safe.